The most powerful people in business right now are not optimizing their pitch decks, they're optimizing their biology. And a lot of businesses are paying attention to that shift. The longevity and biohacking market is currently a $45 billion industry, growing to roughly $200 billion by 2035. Let me show you how it got here. I'm Saida. By day, I've spent the last few years working in product design and strategy in tech and branding. By night, my heart has always been in culture and music. My background also includes certifications in applied psychology, data analytics, accessibility, and user experience, which I apply across different industries. Full potential is where all of those lenses meet. Before we dive deep into industry numbers and insights, let's for a second look at the history. Ancient Greek athletes had documented recovery rituals. Cold water immersion, structured rest, olive oil massage before competition. They were hacking their biology before the word biohacking existed. Roman emperors kept personal physicians not just for illness but for performance. Cleopatra ran what was essentially an ancient biomarker lab out of the Egyptian court. She co-authored medical texts, formulated skincare preparations using ingredients that modern cosmetic science has since verified actually work. 1,000 years later, and a half a world away, Wu Jintian, China's former empress, ruled for over 40 years and lived to 81 in an era when most people didn't make it past 40. Historical records speak of her youthful-looking complexion at the age of 80. Her methods included many protocols that are also used in today's biohacking literature. The point I want you to take from this: longevity has always been a strategy throughout cultures and eras. What changed is that it became a growing business industry now, and that shift starts in Silicon Valley in early 2000s. Dave Asprey, a web security executive, started testing everything on himself. Sleep architecture, nutrition timing, nootropics, cold exposure, and so on. He reversed a cognitive decline diagnosis and then turned the whole thing into a brand. Bulletproof became one of the first mainstream points that biohacking could be a business model rather than just a personal experiment. Let's talk about what's actually happening at the brand and business level. Because the story of biohacking and business isn't told through a few famous names spending millions. It's told through which brands identify this cultural shift and building accordingly. Let's start with Erewhon. If you know Erewhon, you already know its cultural infrastructure. The place where food, aesthetic, wellness, and status all converge in Los Angeles. Their smoothie collabs have become quite popular brand partnerships of the last 5 years. But in February 2026, Erewhon made a different kind of move. They partnered with Function Health, a biomarker testing platform with a $2.5 billion valuation, to launch what they called the world's healthiest smoothie. The question mark is intentional. It's a challenge to the entire industry's relationship with the word healthy. They built this smoothie based on actual scientific data from Function rather than aesthetics or trends. Function has nearly 500,000 members. Their data shows 65% have insulin levels outside the optimal range. 54% show elevated cardiovascular risk markers. 70% are deficient in vitamin D, B vitamins, omega-3s, or magnesium. The smoothie was formulated to address those specific gaps. 20 ingredients, glass bottle, $16, with a QR code for $25 off a Function membership. Let's look at the brand logic there. Erewhon used its cultural cachet to bring biomarker science into the grocery aisle. function used Erewhon's audience to make lab testing feel desirable rather than clinical or scary. Then there is Oura. A lot of you probably familiar with this brand. The smart ring that started as a sleep tracker has become the data holder layer for a whole ecosystem of protocols. Oura now supports over 800 integrations. One that I find quite interesting among them is LifeStack, an AI calendar app that pulls your Oura information and rebuilds your daily schedule around your actual energy, not the clock. Your most cognitively demanding work aligned to your peak window. Creative sessions timed to your natural rhythms, recovery protected. Basically, your highly personalized calendar that is designed around your specific body's needs. And then there is slightly more high-end pricing brands, such as Remedy Place. Founded in 2019 in West Hollywood, now with locations in New York and Boston, it bills itself as the world's first social wellness club. It's not a gym, not a spa. It offers clinical self-care services designed to be done with other people. Group cryotherapy, guided breathwork ice bath classes, infrared saunas, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, IV vitamin drips, red light therapy, lymphatic compression, and much more. Memberships run between $600 to $5,000 a month, depending on package and location. Walk-in a la carte is welcome for a lot of their services, and they have a very extensive list of the services. The space itself is designed down to the material. Soft lighting, lush greenery, sound baths on the menu alongside the clinical services, and early investors included recording artists Zed and Rufus Du Sol. Regular clientele has included the Kardashians, Drake, and Shaun White. What makes Remedy Place interesting isn't the services, it's the model. Longevity as something you do with people you like in a space that feels worth being in. Here the brand strategy is to use community as the retention mechanism, and it's working for them quite well. And this is not another Silicon Valley story, by the way. This is global. Japan and South Korea have had longevity culture built into their national identity for generations. Japan approved a stem cell-based Alzheimer's therapy in January 2024. South Korea's beauty and wellness industries have been running biohacking adjacent protocols for decades. They just didn't necessarily use the word biohacking as description. In India, the biohacking market crossed $1 billion in 2024. India's first dedicated biohacking center opened in Kerala that same year. In Europe, searches for biohacking and longevity supplements grew over 190% in 2025. Germany, Sweden, and the UK are leading the category. The brand language spreading globally is ritual, community, warmth. The brands that will win are the ones building cultural fluency alongside data-driven products. Now, I want to be honest about something. There is an excess problem running underneath this whole story. The most cutting-edge longevity interventions, such as, for example, epigenetic testing, personalized peptide protocols, full-body MRIs, stem cell therapies, these are being distributed almost exclusively to people who already have the most resources, right? And here's a story that doesn't get told enough, and I want to share it with you. A 55-year-old single mom named Julie Gibson Clark is currently ranked number 2 on the Rejuvenation Olympics. Clark is celebrated for achieving elite results on a fraction of the budget used by high-profile biohackers like Brayan Johnson. She ages at 0.66 of a year for every chronological year she lives, meaning for every year that passes on the calendar, her biological markers only advance by about 8 months. For context, Brayan Johnson spending $2 million a year ages at 0.72 biological years per chronological year. Slower than average, but still faster than Clark. Julie achieved these numbers on a budget under $200 a month, and she's at the moment outperforming Brayan Johnson, who spends $2 million a year. I want to say clearly, I'm not using this as a knock on Brayan Johnson. I followed his work for a while. I respect what he's building, and the fact that he shares all this data publicly really matters. His transparency is part of why stories like Julie's are even possible. The reason why I'm bringing this up is specifically about the access conversation, because that's the part that worries most people when we talk about the longevity industry. And Julie's case suggests something important. The fundamentals work: consistency, sleep, movement, food, mental regulation, and community. These are accessible. The gap between who gets early access to emerging tools and who doesn't, that will define the next decade of health inequality. The brands that figure out democratization are the ones building for the long game. Because the goal of this channel is never to just inspire you, it's to equip you. So here's what I actually want you to take from this. The brands winning in this space share one brand strategy. They start with scientific data and expertise because customers nowadays are much more informed and won't trust empty promises. After they've built a trustable data layer, they start to introduce behavior around it. And final strategy layer, final but very important, they use community as the retention mechanism. Our biological capacity is our creative and professional capacity. As someone who is building a business myself, I know firsthand that most dangerous thing in founders' operating system isn't a bad product decision. It's a degraded instrument making that decision. If we zoom out for a second, the primary fundamentals of longevity are pretty simple. Movement, sleep as non-negotiable, food that stabilizes your energy, mental regulation practice, community that has the same goals as you, and the most important of all of this is consistency and scientific data. Even if it is just one product that you invest into that gives you data, as long as it shows you what's actually happening in your body instead of what you assume. The longevity and biohacking market is currently a $45 billion industry, growing to roughly $200 billion by 2035. I think that the businesses who will really win in this market are the ones that will focus on making the tools more accessible and implement better diversification in the scientific methods and data that goes into the research, while having main human principles at the center of their protocols. If you found this episode useful, please give this video some love by liking or sending it to a friend. If you're interested on the topics of business, culture, and impact, subscribe to this channel. Thank you for being here.